Welcome everyone. This is the first day of week 1, Introduction to Python Basic. In week 1, you're going to learn all the basic you need in Python programming before we move on to the intermediate concept in week 2. Make sure you check the curriculum. I send it to the Google Classroom. You can download it and you can check the curriculum, what are we going to do for this entire 4 weeks. So please make sure you work very hard, because this class is going to be challenging. It's not going to be it's going to be beginner friendly and also challenging. So this is the first day of week 1, Introduction to Python Basic, week 1, and then in day 1 we are going to start looking at Introduction to Programming. So let me introduce you to the general programming in general. So my first question is, what is programming? Yes, you heard me right. What is programming? Programming is a step-by-step instructions telling the computer what to do. Let me give you an analogy. Let's say you want to ask your brother to wash your clothes, and then the first thing you have to do, you have to call your brother, then ask him to go and fetch water, then give him a detergent and ask him, wash this cloth for me before so time I want to use them, for example, something like that. So the way you give instructions to your brother is the same thing the way we programmers we do to the computer. We just telling the computer, do this, do that, do this. If this happen, do this. If this, do this, do this. This is how we program your computer. We just giving him a step-by-step instruction. We're just giving it a step-by-step instruction to execute a specific task for us. So this is what we call a programming. So now since we understand what is programming, how can we write a program to the computer? So for example, you are about to, if you want to give your brother instruction to wash your clothes, the first thing you have to consider is your brother understand the language you are speaking? For example, let's say your brother is let's say he only understand English, and you can speak different kind of language. So you decided to say, okay, let me use Indian language to speak with my brother, to communicate with it. So if you use Indian language, your brother will definitely doesn't have any idea of what you are talking about, because you are using the language he cannot understand. So if you want your brother to execute your task, you have to use the language he understands. So it's the same thing in computer. If you want to write a program to a computer, so make sure you know which language computer can understand and use that language to give computer instructions. So now maybe your next question is going to be, okay, which kind of language computer understand? Very good question. Computer understand a language what we call a machine language. Machine language is a sequence of 0 and 1. That's the language of computer. Maybe in your high school, your math teacher are going to tell you, okay, today we are going to start looking at binary system, and he write 1 0 1 0 0 1 plus 0. So this kind of language, or this kind of number system, is a language of computer. Number 0 1 0 1 1 0 0. So this is the language of computer. So but how can we give computer instruction in that kind of language? Because we as a human, we cannot speak in number. We can only speak in words. We cannot speak in numbers. So it's going to be very difficult for us to give a computer instruction in that kind of language. So how can we give computer instruction? Because computer can only understand 0 and 1. So maybe someone will say, okay, we should go and learn 0 and 1. And you know, you don't have to go and learn 0 and 1, because it's going to be very difficult for you. So for us to give a computer instructions, we have to find someone who can translate that code to the computer. Then I will move on to our next question, which is how computer understand our coding, or how computer understand our program. I hope the second question you understand how you can write a computer program. For you to write a computer program, you need to have a computer. That's the requirement first you need. Then a knowledge, and then the programming language you use to give that computer program that computer. So in that aspect, we're going to use Python. But if now we have a programming language and we are about to give the computer, we are about to write the instructions to the computer, how computer understand that program we are giving it to it? So like I mentioned earlier, that computer can only understand 0 and 1, that's the machine language. But we humans, we only speak in words. So we are going to take one of those programming languages like Java, JavaScript, C++, and learn it. When you learn the syntax, then you can write the program in that programming language in C or Python or JavaScript. And then when you execute the program, then it's going to, inside the IDE, there is something that's going to translate that program into the computer, into the language of computer, so that computer can understand your instruction and execute it. This is how computer understand code. We cannot speak in a computer language, so we have to find someone who can translate our program into computer language. So that thing that's going to translate our program into computer language, we call it a translator. Translator in two parts. We have interpreter and compiler. Interpreter is converting our code in a step-by-step manner, one after the other, while compiler is going to take the whole of the program and convert it at once. That's the differences between compiler and interpreter. So whenever you heard someone say this programming language is an interpreted programming language, it's telling you that the translator of that programming language is translating the code or your program in a step-by-step manner, one after the other. While if you say this program is a compiled language, then it's telling you that the programming language and the translator of that programming language translate the program all at once. So this is how computer understand our program. When we write it in our programming language that we can understand and write, then it's going to translate it into machine language. Translator is a software. Then we're going to translate it into machine language and then give it to the computer and execute it. So this is how we can write and how computer understand our program. So in our next class, we are going to see how we can install. It's going to be installation, how we can install the tools we are going to use to program a computer. Let's say we are going to create a software, just for an example. So we are going to go and install those tools that are going to help us to program a computer and to develop that software. So in that aspect, we are going to focus on Python. So we have to find a software that can translate the Python programming language into machine language. That's what we call interpreter. We have to install a Python interpreter in our next class. Then again in our next class, then we are going to install an IDE. If we have the translator, then we have to find a place where we can write that program. If we say we are going to use Notepad, maybe someone will say, hey, then we should use Notepad. It's a text editor, we can write the program. No, we can use Notepad, but it's going to be very difficult for us. So we have to go and download what we call an IDE, which is a text editor, but is specifically made for programmers that they can use and program a computer. So in that aspect, we are going to download PyCharm and then Python interpreter. So we are in our next class, we are going to install Python interpreter and then PyCharm. So if you have a smartphone, then go to Google Play Store and download PyDroid 3. PyDroid 3. Go to Play Store and download it now. If you are using iPhone, I don't know, but you can check. Maybe the programmer developed one iPhone application. So we are going to make in our next class, which is we are going to start looking at how to install a Python interpreter and IDE.